I want to thank the Life of Bliss for his video. I could not have done this without his help. I also want to thank the Facebook cross-country group. This is meant to add on to Life of Bliss's slideshow, show you some of the things I did, maybe give you a few ideas. I suggest you watch his video and give us both a thumbs up. I decided that going the fiberglass route was too much work, so I decided to use an ABS plastic 1/16 of an inch, but I should have probably used 1/8 inch. Here I am heating up the mold and bending it into shape. I screwed up by cutting the whole bottom of the dash off, so I had to glue it back on. This is something Life of Bliss shows better. I use CA glue to glue the mold in, and then I use Duraglass to start the body work. I also filled the back up with Duraglass to add some strength. Here is a tray I made to hold the brain of the radio, and I drilled and tapped the mounting to hold it to the fairing of the bike. I drilled a hole in the side of the tray and I used a 2.5mm bolt to hold it in place. You can see it in the picture. Back to body work, working the dash. I had to prime it a few times and check it. I didn't take pictures of all of this, but Life of Bliss covers this very well. I cut my dash just like he did to access the screen latch. For mounting the display, I didn't just use the existing holes and run bolts through them. I tapped the holes and I used a 1024 all thread, and then I super glued them to get them started, and then I ended up epoxying it on the front and the back, and then when all was all done, I spray painted it. Now when I bought the bike, the previous owner took off the stock grips and put on some Avon grips, but he couldn't figure out how to get it wired. I ended up swapping the Avon grips to another style Avon grips, but I wanted to maintain the stock switch. So I mounted the switch on the side and installed another switch on the side to control some of my accent lighting. Here you can see me filing out the hole for the switch. I got the body work as far along as I could, and I paid someone to paint the dash. The speaker grills and the two pieces of plastic were the windshield mounts. Here's how I routed the 8-gauge wire. I ended up running 2 runs of 8-gauge and an 8-gauge ground. One run is for the amp and the other one is to power all the accessories. In this picture you can see I only have one 8-gauge ran so far. I found these Polk audio speakers on eBay for a good price with good enough specs for my standards. I went with a 6.5 inch Infinity component set in front. Here's how I made room for the rear speakers. I ran 16-gauge speaker wire to the rear speakers and hooked them up with a Molex plug in case I want to remove the trunk. Here's how I routed the wire. Here's a painted dash in place. This is how I mounted the crossover networks for the front component set. Here I am making a template for my USB power supply and my 6V and 9V buck transformers for the heated grips. The buck transformers are wired to the heated grip switch, and the USB port is wired to be on constantly. The heated grips will only work on accessory power. Here I am wiring up my backup camera. One of the issues I have with this is the license plate blinds the camera at night, so I'll probably unhook the stock light and do something different. I added lights inside the speaker grill and behind the cheese wedge, which are going to be controlled by the switch on the right side of the display. In this picture you can see my brackets to mount the amp, the relay, and the fuse block for everything that is on accessory power. I put the buck transformers for the grips, the axis steering wheel controller, the radio, accent lighting, and the video and motion interface. I use the accessory power from the stock display as a trigger for the relay. Like I showed earlier, I used bolts to hold the brain into the tray, but also wrapped it with Tessa tape, and I used a little bit of silicone as well. This is how I mounted the amp and wired it. This picture you can see I cut a piece of upholstery vinyl, and I also ended up tucking as much of my wire into the side of the radio as I could. I cut a second piece of vinyl. I had to trim the sides of this prior to putting the front of the fairing back on. This is the USB port I used. The top one goes to the USB power supply I installed by the buck transformers, and the bottom one goes to the brain of the head unit. I ran the aux cord to the left side of the handlebars. Here I ran the 2.5mm mic cable. I don't know why I did this, but I figured I can cut off and get rid of it later if it's in my way. This is it. It's done as of right now. I have not even had this bike out, and I don't know how I'll like it with the lights and the speaker grill. Thank you for watching. I hope this helps some of you get some ideas on how to do this. I know a lot of people have already done this, so I'm a little late to the party. Life of Bliss did a great job showing how to do the body work, getting it painted and getting it installed. I just thought I'd show some of the things that I did, and maybe there's a few things I did differently and a few of the mistakes I made. Thank you for watching. Please give me a thumbs up. I want to thank the Life of Bliss for his video.